our panel on careers in disability law. October is National Disability Awareness Month, so I think this is a wonderful event that we're putting on. And I'd like to invite Dean Brady to say some words.
Yeah, I'm sorry I can't stay for the whole thing. I have to go fundraise. But I did want to say that in 17 years I ran the San Francisco Bar, we spent literally millions and millions of dollars on disability and other bases for discrimination in the profession and the exclusion of people based on race and gender and sexual orientation and disability and so on. And there's absolutely no question in my mind that the group that without question suffers the most discrimination in the legal profession are people with disabilities. And the profession has been very, very slow to do very much about it. And programs that in a racial or a gender setting would have been easy for firms to say yes to, they were saying things that they used to say back in the early, so what if we hire somebody and they don't work out, won't we get sued, which is what they used to say about women and people of color and so on. They're still saying that about people with disabilities. So I just think that it is an area that is just, whatever's happening in the legal profession is obviously just a microcosm of what is happening nationally, but as lawyers to be, as you will hear from these distinguished practitioners up here and administrators, you really have a unique role to play in terms of doing something about changing what are really overwhelming barriers in not only the legal profession but throughout the society. We're very, very pleased and grateful to have all of you take time out of your busy schedules to share your thoughts and your encouragement with our students. And so I want to thank our panelists and thank you for letting me dive in and dive out.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So before we begin, I wanted to say thank you to the Office of Career Services for helping plan this event. And also let everyone know that this event is being made possible in part by the Ian Mackey Newman Memorial Fund. Ian Mackey Newman was a GGU School of Law graduate. He graduated in, he had muscular dystrophy and he passed away in 2010. Ian Mackey Newman challenged the conceptions of what an individual with disabilities is able to achieve in the legal profession, and so we're happy to honor his legacy by putting on events that highlight issues around disabilities and disability law. So I'm going to take time now to introduce the panel. To my left, we have Jung Pham, who graduated from GGU in 2007. He attended law school initially with the goal to become a patent law attorney in biological sciences. However, during his time at GGU, he became fascinated with public interest, and in particular, civil rights for people with disabilities. He currently works at Disability Rights California, a federally funded watchdog organization that provides direct representation as well as systematic advocacy for people with disabilities. His work focuses primarily on the abuse and neglect of clients living in institutions and the community. Next to him we have Susan Mizner, who is the director of San Francisco's Mayor's Office on Disability. The staff of MAUD, often referred to as the MAUD Squad, are responsible for local city government's compliance with the ADA. Because both Susan and the rest of the staff come from the disability community, however, the office is also a national leader in developing best practices and providing innovative approaches to disability rights and disability access within city government. Ms. Mizner became a member of the disability community while living in China in the 1980s. She has lived and worked with chronic illness since. She's a graduate of Stanford Law, where her reasonable accommodation was a cot in the in the library and in the classroom.
My law school lined up.
Yeah. Dolly Trompeter was on the law review of and graduated cum laude from Washington College of Law, American University in 2000. She has worked in Social Security disability law since 2001. She currently is a solo practitioner working on Social Security appeals. She also has worked as an attorney for the SSA's Regional Chief Administrative Law Judge in San Francisco. She was part of a unit of attorneys especially selected to work on the most complex Social Security disability and supplemental security income claims in the region. As such, she is well versed in Social Security administrative law and procedures, the workings of the administrative law judges, the Social Security hearing office, and the Social Security field offices. She's a member of the National Association of Social Security Claimants Representatives and AIDS Legal Referral Panel MCLE presenter and San Francisco Bar Association volunteer. So I guess the first question we're going to start with is, how does your work impact individuals with disabilities? So I guess we'll just go down the line.
Well, working for Disability Rights California, I get actually a chance to work on issues at different levels. I work to provide a lot of direct representation and one client representation, but I also am lucky enough to get to work on legislative and public policy issues. That's more of a systemic fix to the problem. It's a tough task given the budget crisis right now, but I think the little work we can do makes a lot of difference to the folks.
Local government affects people with disabilities in virtually everything we do. Everything from voting, access to voting polling places and voting machines, access to public health, both access in terms of architectural access and access in terms of policies and procedures and approaches that allow people with psychiatric disabilities or dual diagnoses to be able to effectively use public health. Being able to live in the community versus in an institution, something that DRC and our office goes way back on in terms of our Laguna Honda struggles. Transportation, access to accessible transportation, both in terms of a fixed route and paratransit. And the airport, we deal with airport issues all the time. Access in the public right of way. Certainly our Prop B on the upcoming election is going to affect how much work we can do in terms of sidewalk construction, curb ramp construction, crosswalk repair. Accessible pedestrian signals are, people know what accessible pedestrian signals are? Anyone? They're the, yeah, so they're the, we have the countdown signals for all of us who can see, but for folks who are blind or low vision, that doesn't do you any good. And so knowing when to cross the street is a huge safety issue. We've been installing accessible pedestrian signals around the city at most of the busy intersections and requested intersections. They give you an audible signal. And also the community knows to press the button and it will tell you what street you are at and what street you are crossing. So it's also a communication tool. Access to government services. Homeless shelters is where June and I first met. I was working at the Homeless Advocacy Project for the Bar Association of San Francisco. And access to the library, access to parks and services, swimming pools. Virtually everything that the government does affects people with disabilities, and people with disabilities tend to have much more government contact, in part because people with disabilities tend to be lower income and more reliant on government services.
I'm the private practitioner here, so what I do is I take basically everything I learned working for 3 years for the Social Security Administration, and now I use it against them to try to, yeah, well, basically, yeah. And I use it to help people get their SSI and SSDI benefits, and I know that sounds pretty simple, but it's actually extremely complicated, and what I always tell people, from my less sophisticated clients to my most sophisticated clients, is that Social Security disability law is not rocket science, but it's highly esoteric. And you really need someone who knows their way around it. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who try to do it on their own, and they get lost in the labyrinth and find themselves appealing and appealing and appealing and end up in federal court, and then maybe 4 or 5 years later, maybe they get their benefits after they've hired a lawyer. So I try to step in as early as possible to help shape the case, to help them frame their story, and help them gather the records.
And I help them from absolutely step 1, which is filling out the forms, to step cajillion, which is going to federal district court and filing briefs and arguing for remands and remands for payment. And then in between, there are many other steps. And I love it. I am very lucky. It took a lot of work, and I highly suggest finding what you're passionate about. Go work on the other side, and then come out and do what you want to do. But the best training I ever got was working for the enemy, so to speak. And it's made me a very good and very successful Social Security disability attorney. So
Before we go on, you mentioned SSI and SSDI. Can you explain what those acronyms mean?
Oh, okay.
Language do you?
I'm sorry. Under the SS, we all hear a lot about the trust fund and Social Security, but we're usually hearing a lot about retirement. But on the other side of that are the disability programs. And under the Social Security Act, the Social Security Administration runs these 2 programs. Well, they run others, but the main ones that I do are SSI and SSDI. The medical requirements for getting or being awarded your SSI are the same. They're exactly the same. But the non-medical requirements are very, very different. SSI is what they call the, and I know this is a pejorative word, the welfare side of it, where your income is at a very, very low, not income, but your resources are at a very, very low level. And it's a difficult standard to meet. And that will qualify you, that's very general. And then there's the SSDI portion where if you all work above board, then you're getting taxes taken out, your FICA, and you're paying in, and you earn enough what's called quarters of credit. You have to have worked recently enough and long enough, and then every year we all get the Social Security breakdown, and so I always tell it's a white form with the green border. Everyone gets one, and if you look on the second page, it will say, should you become disabled today, this is how much you would earn, and it will have an amount. And if it doesn't have an amount, it'll say you need X number more quarters. That means you need to work longer and put in more to qualify. So they're very disparate, they're very tricky, they're very esoteric, and it's not rocket science, but you need to know it. You need to know it or you're going to be no help to anybody.
Well, as you said in the intro, I started law school wanting to make big bucks, and lawyer and all that good stuff. And then as I started school, somebody told me, even though you want to be a patent lawyer, why don't you try something else and see if that's something you'd be interested in. And it's something I encourage you to do as well. I was lucky enough to get involved with working with the Legal Aid Society for Seniors, as well as having a roommate who's actually a clerk at SB Grant.
Oh.
And she's very passionate and kind of introduced me to the issues of disabilities. It has a personal connection to her, and that's how I just slowly became more and more involved. My class load shifted more from corporate stuff and patent properties into civil rights electives. I was more eager to apply for clerkships with nonprofits, and before I knew it, I was so deep into it that it was hard for me to leave.
I actually took the reverse course from Dolly. I started